Good morning, everyone. I want you to imagine something. It's New Year's Eve, December 31st, 2025. You're standing there, glass in hand, and instead of thinking, where did the time go? You're thinking, I've never lived a year like this. The truth is, most people will walk into 2025 the same way they walked into 2024, with hope, maybe a resolution or two, but no real plan, no real shift. And here's the hard truth. Hope isn't a strategy. But today, I want only 11 minutes of your life to help you design the year you've been waiting for. Minute 20, the year you deserve, starts with clarity. If you don't know what you want, you'll settle for what you get. Most of us think in terms of vague wishes. I want to be healthier. I want to be successful. I want to be happier. The problem, these are directions without destinations. You can't hit a target you can't see. So here's your first step. Write down one thing, just one that if achieved by December 31st, 2025, would make you proud beyond words. Minute 40, the power of the small. We love the idea of massive change, but real transformation is built on the tiniest habits. It's not the one grand leap. It's the daily, often boring, small steps that move mountains. If you want to change your health, start with drinking more water and sleeping an extra 30 minutes. If you want to grow your career, commit to reading 10 pages a day. If you want to strengthen a relationship, send one message of appreciation a week. Change is not about doing everything. It's about doing something consistently. Minute 7's a redefining failure. Most people don't fail because they're incapable. They fail because they quit too soon. Think about it. Every great success story you admire is really a story of someone who simply stayed in the game longer than everyone else. Failure isn't a signal to stop. It's an invitation to adjust. Minute 90, the people equation, your environment shapes your results more than your willpower ever will. If you want to win 2025, surround yourself with people who make you want to level up, not those who keep you stuck in old patterns. Your circle is either your greatest advantage or your greatest anchor. Minute 11, the moment of decision. The calendar won't make 2025 great. You will. Every year, billions of people get a fresh January 1st, and only a fraction do something different with it. The difference isn't in the clock striking midnight. It's in the moment you decide that you are no longer available for the life you've outgrown. So here's my challenge. Decide today what 2025 will mean for you, and then spend the next 357 days proving yourself right. Because in 11 minutes, you've just given yourself permission to create the best year of your life. Now go make it happen. 5 keynotes of the speech clarity before action to find one clear, measurable outcome for 2025 before taking steps toward it. Small habits create big results. Focus on consistent daily actions instead of chasing instant change. Failure is feedback. Treat setbacks as adjustments, not endings. Your circle shapes your success. Surround yourself with people who elevate your standards. Decide and commit. Great years are built by choices, not by the passage of time. Clarity is the foundation of every meaningful achievement, yet it's the one step most people rush past. When you ask someone what they want in life, they'll often give you vague, open-ended answers. I want to be successful. I want to be happy. I want to be financially free. These sound inspiring on the surface, but they're like telling a pilot, just fly somewhere nice. Without a clear destination, you end up circling in the air, burning fuel, going nowhere. The human brain is incredibly powerful at solving problems and spotting opportunities, but it can only direct that power effectively when it knows what the target is. Without that clarity, you'll say yes to things that don't serve you, get pulled into distractions that feel urgent but aren't important, and mistake movement for progress. Clarity is not about having a detailed 50-page life plan. It's about defining the 1 or 2 outcomes that truly matter so that everything else in your life can align with them. Think of it like using a camera. When you focus the lens on a single subject, everything else becomes slightly blurred, allowing your attention to stay exactly where it should be. This doesn't mean you ignore every other aspect of life, but it does mean you know the difference between the main plot of your story and the side notes. People often confuse business with direction, thinking that being constantly occupied means they're making progress. But without clarity, you might just be running faster on the same treadmill, never actually getting closer to the life you want. One of the reasons clarity is so powerful is that it naturally drives decision making. When you know exactly what matters most, you stop wasting energy debating every little choice. Opportunities are no longer judged on whether they sound good or interesting, but on whether they bring you closer to or further from your defined goal. This reduces mental fatigue and creates a sense of calm confidence because you're no longer scattered in 100 directions. You have a compass and it points to one true north. And this isn't just philosophical, it's practical. If you define your 2025 goal as doubling your income through your own business, suddenly saying yes to more overtime at a job you plan to leave doesn't make sense. Your filter becomes sharper, your yes becomes stronger, and your no becomes easier. Many people avoid getting truly clear because clarity is uncomfortable. It forces you to choose, and choosing means letting go of other possibilities. It's easier to keep your options open, to live in a state of maybe rather than commit to one must. But the truth is, without commitment, your year will look almost exactly like the last one. Clarity is the courage to declare, this is the hill I'm willing to climb. It's making peace with the fact that you can't chase every opportunity and still expect to arrive somewhere meaningful. Getting clarity also means stripping away what isn't essential. Most people try to define their goals by adding more projects, more tasks, more ambitions. In reality, clarity is often found by removing. It's looking at your life and asking, if I could only accomplish one major thing this year, what would it be? That single question forces you to confront what's truly important. And when you know that answer, every day becomes a chance to take one more step toward it. Even a small action, when repeated consistently toward a clear outcome, has a compounding effect that can change the trajectory of an entire year. Clarity doesn't just help you plan, it transforms the way you experience progress. Without it, small wins feel random or meaningless because you're not sure how they fit into a bigger picture. With clarity, even the smallest milestone feels significant because you know exactly how it moves you forward. That's why people who operate with true clarity are often perceived as more confident and disciplined. It's not that they have superhuman willpower, it's that they have removed the fog from their path so they can walk forward with purpose. If 2025 is going to be your best year, clarity is the first and most non-negotiable step. Without it, you're left hoping that circumstances will align in your favor. With it, you create a filter for your time, energy, and attention, ensuring that what you do each day is in service to the life you're deliberately building. And that deliberate choice, more than anything else, is what separates an extraordinary year from an ordinary one. We tend to imagine change as this dramatic, cinematic event. The moment someone quits their job on the spot, drops 50 pounds in a few weeks, or launches a business overnight. Those moments are inspiring, but they're also misleading. The reality is that almost every life transformation you admire is built on small, almost invisible actions repeated consistently over time. Big change doesn't arrive with fireworks. It shows up quietly, often disguised as something so simple it's easy to dismiss. The danger is that because small habits don't produce instant, dramatic results, people underestimate their power and abandon them before they've had a chance to work. When you understand the compounding nature of small actions, everything shifts. Think about interest in a bank account. The first deposits feel insignificant, a few dollars here, a few dollars there. But over time, those small amounts grow, multiply, and eventually become something substantial. The same principle applies to habits. Drinking an extra glass of water today won't transform your health by tomorrow, but doing it every day for a year changes your energy, your skin, your focus. Reading 10 pages a day doesn't feel like much in the moment, but in 12 months, you've read more than a dozen books, absorbed new ideas, and possibly unlocked insights that change the course of your career or relationships. The magic is in the repetition, not the size of the action. Small habits also have another advantage. They're sustainable. When you aim for massive change in one leap, it's exciting at first, but exhausting to maintain. Willpower fades, life throws curveballs, and suddenly you find yourself back where you started. Small habits work because they're easier to integrate into your life without needing heroic effort every single day. They don't demand perfection, they ask for consistency. That's why the most effective personal growth strategies are often boring from the outside. They look like someone showing up, doing a little bit of the right thing over and over again, while everyone else is chasing the next big hack or shortcut. There's also a psychological advantage to starting small. Every time you follow through on a habit, no matter how small, you cast a vote for the identity you want to build. If you exercise for 5 minutes, you reinforce the belief that you're someone who prioritizes health. If you write a single paragraph, you confirm that you're a writer. This identity shift is powerful because behavior flows naturally from how you see yourself. Over time, the habit stops being something you force yourself to do and becomes something you simply are. You're not trying to be healthy. You're a healthy person. You're a healthy person. You're not trying to read more. You're a reader. And that subtle mental shift makes it far easier to stay on track. Another overlooked aspect of small habits is how they create momentum. In the beginning, a new habit might feel almost pointless, but each repetition makes it easier to take the next step. It's the difference between pushing a car from a dead stop and keeping it rolling once it's already moving. Momentum is built by action, and action is far easier when the steps are so small, they feel impossible to skip. Once you've started, it's far less intimidating to keep going, and before long you find yourself doing more than you originally planned. 5 minutes of exercise turns into 15. Writing a few sentences turns into a full page. The initial small step wasn't the end goal, it was simply the spark. Small habits also have a ripple effect. Improving one area of your life often spills over into others. Drinking more water might lead you to feel more energized, which makes you more likely to exercise, which improves your sleep, which boosts your focus at work. These small changes stack in ways that are hard to predict but powerful to experience. The reverse is also true. Neglecting small habits can lead to subtle but damaging declines. Skipping one healthy meal isn't a problem, but skipping them regularly becomes a habit of its own, pulling you further from the person you want to be. If you want 2025 to be your best year, it's tempting to look for the one big action that will change everything overnight. But the truth is, the most reliable path is to identify the smallest meaningful actions you can take and commit to them without exception. Small habits don't just improve your results, they reshape your identity, build momentum, and create a structure for long-term success. They're not as glamorous as grand resolutions, but they are far more likely to stick, and in the end, they're the quiet force that makes extraordinary change inevitable. Failure has a way of intimidating people before they even take the first step. We're conditioned from a young age to see it as a sign of weakness or a final verdict on our abilities, as if one setback defines who we are and what we're capable of achieving. This fear is so deeply ingrained that it keeps many from even trying. But the truth is, failure is not the opposite of success. It's a crucial ingredient in it. Every person you admire, every innovator, every reader, every creator has been shaped by moments where things didn't go according to plan. The difference between those who succeed and those who give up is not talent alone. It's the willingness to stay in the game long enough to learn what failure is trying to teach. Failure is often misunderstood because people tend to see it in snapshots, not in the context of the whole story. You might hear about an entrepreneur whose company folded after 2 years, but you don't hear about how that experience became the training ground for the business they built later that thrived for decades. You might see an athlete miss a critical shot in a championship game, but not realize that miss drove them to train harder, sharpen their skills, and eventually win. The problem is we stop at the moment of defeat instead of moving through it. We assume that a failed attempt means we've reached the end, when in reality, it's simply one chapter in a much longer book. One of the most valuable shifts you can make is to see failure as feedback rather than a final judgment. Feedback tells you what works, what doesn't, and where adjustments are needed. Without it, you're flying blind. If you set a goal for 2025 and stumble along the way, that's not a sign that the goal is impossible. It's an invitation to re-examine your approach. Maybe the method was flawed, maybe the timing was off, maybe you underestimated the resources you'd need. Each failure is like a progress report, not a prison sentence. But you only benefit from that report if you're willing to read it honestly and make changes based on it. Another reason failure is so critical is because it builds resilience. It forces you to confront discomfort, adapt under pressure, and keep moving forward even when the outcome is uncertain. Resilience isn't built by winning every time, it's forged in the moments you lose and decide to try again anyway. The people who make 2025 their best year won't be the ones who never make mistakes. They'll be the ones who refuse to let mistakes define the rest of the year. That determination becomes a habit, and over time, it turns into one of the most valuable skills you can have, the ability to recover quickly and keep going. There's also an emotional side to failure that we can't ignore. It can bruise your confidence, and if you're not careful, it can start to shrink your vision. You fail once, and suddenly you're aiming smaller, not because you want less, because you're trying to protect yourself from the pain of disappointment. But aiming smaller is a slow form of giving up. The antidote is to remember that your self-worth is not tied to the outcome of a single attempt. Your value isn't determined by how often you succeed, but by how willing you are to pursue what matters to you despite the risk of falling short. Failure also has a way of revealing what truly matters to you. When you fail at something you didn't care about deeply, it's easy to walk away. But when you fail at something that really matters, that sting can clarify your priorities. You realize that you're willing to go through the discomfort, the setbacks, and the hard lessons because the goal is worth it. In that way, failure becomes a filter. It strips away the superficial and forces you to commit to the things that truly deserve your time and energy. In 2025, you will have moments where things don't go according to plan. You might face rejection, delays, or unexpected detours. The key is to recognize that these moments are not the end of your story, but necessary stops along the way. Failure is the tuition you pay for growth. It's not pleasant, but it's valuable. And the lessons you gain from it often become the very tools you use to succeed later. If you can reframe failure from being something to avoid into something to learn from, you not only remove much of the fear that holds you back, but you also set yourself up to turn every setback into a stepping stone toward the results you want. The difference between an ordinary year and your best year yet might just come down to how you handle the moments when things go wrong. The people you spend your time with shape more of your life than most are willing to admit. You can have the strongest willpower, the best intentions, and the clearest goals, but if you're surrounded by the wrong influences, you'll eventually find yourself drifting off course. Human beings are social creatures, and whether we realize it or not, we adapt to the norms of the groups we're part of. We mirror the language, the habits, the ambitions, and even the standards of the people closest to us. This isn't weakness. It's biology. Our brains are wired to seek connection and belonging, and in doing so, we unconsciously align ourselves with the expectations of our environment. If your goal for 2025 is to level up in any area of your life, one of the most important decisions you can make is who you allow into your inner circle. The people you spend the most time with either challenge you to grow or make it easy for you to stay the same. If you're around individuals who constantly complain, who settle for mediocrity, or who dismiss your ambitions, their mindset starts to seep into yours. You might not notice it right away, but over time, you begin to lower your own expectations without even realizing it. On the other hand, when you spend time with people who are striving for excellence, who hold themselves accountable, and who encourage others to aim higher, you naturally start raising your own standards. It's not just about avoiding negative people. It's about actively seeking out those who inspire you. Inspiration doesn't mean blind admiration. It means being around people whose actions and attitudes remind you of the kind of person you want to become. These are the friends who celebrate your wins without envy, who tell you the truth when you're off track, and who don't let you settle for less than your potential. They are the ones who expand your perspective by exposing you to ideas, opportunities, and ways of thinking you might not have considered on your own. Sometimes just being in their presence changes the way you see what's possible. The people equation also works on a more subtle level. You adopt habits not because someone tells you to, but because you see them modeled consistently. If your peers read exercise, take care of their health, and manage their time well, you're far more likely to do the same. The reverse is equally true. If those around you cut corners, procrastinate, or make excuses, those behaviors start to feel normal. This is why it's so important to be intentional about your environment. Your circle should make the behaviors that move you forward feel natural and automatic, not forced. It's worth noting that upgrading your circle doesn't necessarily mean cutting everyone out of your life. It's not about ruthlessly severing ties for the sake of self-improvement. It's about balancing the influences you're exposed to. You might have friends you've known for years who aren't as ambitious as you, but you can still love them while making sure you also spend time in environments that fuel your growth. That might mean joining a professional community, finding a mentor, or surrounding yourself with peers who share your drive and values. The goal is to ensure that the dominant voices around you are the ones pushing you toward your best self. There's also an accountability factor that comes from being around the right people. When you're part of a group where progress is the norm, you feel a healthy pressure to keep up. It's not competition in the toxic sense. It's the kind of competition where everyone wins because you're all pushing each other forward. In those circles, your goals are met with curiosity and encouragement, not skepticism. You're more likely to follow through because you know others are watching, and you don't want to be the one who gives up. Your circle can also act as a buffer against the inevitable challenges that come with pursuing big goals. When you hit setbacks, having people around you who remind you why you started and who help you see beyond the temporary disappointment can be the difference between quitting and continuing. They keep your vision alive when your own motivation starts to fade, and they help you see that failure is just a step on the way, not a reason to stop. For 2025 to truly be your best year, you need to be intentional not only about your actions, but about the people who influence those actions. The environment you choose will either accelerate your progress or quietly erode it. The conversations you have, the examples you witness, and the energy you absorb from those around you will directly impact how you think, feel, and act. Surrounding yourself with people who make you want to rise to the occasion is one of the most strategic moves you can make, because over time, you will either grow into the company you keep or shrink to fit it. The moment you decide what you truly want and commit to it fully is the moment your life begins to shift. Too often, people wait for the perfect timing, the right mood, or some magical sign that it's time to begin. They let days, months, and even years pass in this waiting zone, hoping that change will somehow happen on its own. But the truth is, nothing changes until you make a deliberate decision and follow it with consistent action. A year like 2025 won't become your best year simply because the calendar flips to January 1st. The turn of the year doesn't carry any special power beyond what you give it. What creates a remarkable year is the point at which you draw a line in the sand and say, from this moment forward, I'm committed to a different standard. Decisions are powerful because they eliminate the mental tug of war that drains so much energy. When you haven't decided, every option is still on the table, and every day becomes a debate. Should you start that business? Should you change your health habits? Should you commit to that relationship? This constant back and forth wastes time and weakens resolve. But once a decision is made, your mind shifts from should I to how will I. That change in framing activates creativity, focus, and problem solving in a way that indecision never can. You stop rehearsing reasons and start finding solutions. The act of deciding is also a declaration of responsibility. It's acknowledging that your future isn't just a product of luck or circumstances. It's a result of the choices you make and the actions you take. This can feel heavy at first because it removes the comfort of blaming outside factors, but it's also incredibly liberating. Once you see that you have the power to decide, you also see that you have the power to change. This mindset puts you in the driver's seat of your own year, rather than being a passenger hoping the ride goes somewhere you like. A committed decision also demands a deeper kind of alignment. It's not enough to say the words. Your daily actions need to reflect the choice you've made. Too many people declare big goals at the start of the year, but continue with the same habits, routines, and thought patterns that produce the results they're trying to change. True commitment means reorganizing your environment, your priorities, and your schedule to support the path you've chosen. It means making sacrifices, saying no to things that don't fit the plan, and sometimes letting go of old patterns or even old identities that no longer serve you. This alignment between decision and action is where the real transformation happens. There's also a psychological shift that comes from deciding and committing. When you fully commit to something, you start to view obstacles differently. Instead of seeing them as stop signs, you see them as challenges to be worked through. The question is no longer, will I keep going? But what's the next best move? This mindset doesn't eliminate the hard days, but it keeps you moving through them instead of getting stuck. Every time you push through a difficult moment because you've already decided to, you strengthen your own trust in yourself. Over time, this self-trust becomes one of your most valuable assets because you know that you can rely on your own word. Making a decision also helps you create momentum. The first step is always the hardest, and many never take it because they're waiting to feel ready. But readiness is often a product of action, not a prerequisite for it. Once you take that first step, however small, you start to build movement in the direction you've chosen. This momentum makes it easier to take the next step, and the one after that, until the path you once hesitated to start becomes the one you walk naturally every day. In this way, commitment generates its own fuel. It's important to remember that deciding doesn't mean you'll have every detail figured out from the start. In fact, you won't. Big goals often unfold as you move toward them. The clarity you need for step 5 usually comes after you've taken steps 1 through 4. This is why commitment is so vital. Without it, the uncertainty of the journey can tempt you to turn back. With commitment, you're willing to move forward even without perfect information, trusting that you'll learn and adapt along the way. Ultimately, the moment of decision is less about choosing a goal and more about choosing a standard for your life. It's a promise to yourself that you won't accept less than the vision you've set, and it's a willingness to do what it takes to honor that promise. When you look back at 2025, the moments that define it won't just be the victories. They'll be the days you could have given up but didn't, the moments you could have stayed the same but chose to move forward. Those moments begin with a single decision, and once you make it, the rest of the year begins to take shape around it. So here we are, 11 minutes later. You've seen that a remarkable 2025 won't come from vague resolutions or waiting for life to work out. It will come from clarity that gives you a target worth aiming for, small habits that make big dreams possible, the courage to treat failure as feedback, the wisdom to choose your circle with intention, and the decision to commit fully to the life you want. The year ahead will not hand you success. It will hand you days, ordinary days, and what you do with them will decide how this story ends. Every sunrise will be a fresh chance to align with your goal, take the smallest step forward, and refuse to let setbacks define you. Every choice will be a vote for the life you're building. And when you choose with clarity, act with consistency, grow through failure, surround yourself with the right people, and decide once and for all that you will not go back to the life you've outgrown, 2025 will not just be another year. It will be your best year yet.